George Stinny Jr., State, South Carolina, executed in 1944 by electric chair. George Stinny Jr. was just 14 years old when he was convicted and sentenced to death in 1944 for the murders of two white girls, Betty June DeLane, 11, and Mary Emma Thames, 8, in South Carolina. His case remains one of the most controversial and heartbreaking in American history, not only because of his young age but also due to the numerous questions surrounding the fairness of his trial. Stinny became one of the youngest individuals ever sentenced to death in the United States, and his case raises difficult questions about justice, racial bias, and the rights of children in the legal system. In March 1944, the bodies of Betty June DeLane and Mary Emma Thames were found in a rural area near Alcolu, South Carolina. Both girls had been murdered, and Stinny was quickly arrested based on a confession that many believe was coerced. He was convicted of their deaths in a trial that lasted only a few hours, with little to no defense and no psychological evaluation. George Stinny Jr. was a black teenager in the segregated South, and many believe that racial prejudice played a significant role in his conviction. Stinny's trial in 1944 lasted less than 3 hours, and his conviction was almost immediate. The trial was conducted without any significant defense, and the prosecution relied heavily on the confession, which was later considered highly suspect. At the time, Stinny was the youngest person ever sentenced to death in the United States. His case was not appealed, and his execution was carried out swiftly. Stinny was executed by electric chair at the age of 14, an action that many believed was a result of racial injustice and legal incompetence. In 2014, Stinny's conviction was vacated after a judge reviewed the case and found that Stinny had been wrongfully convicted. The ruling came nearly 70 years after Stinny's execution, and the case was officially dismissed, though the damage had already been done. George Stinny Jr.'s case raises deep questions about the fairness of the criminal justice system, particularly in the context of racial prejudice and the treatment of children. Was it just for a 14-year-old to be executed without a fair trial or defense? The tragic fate of Stinny continues to serve as a reminder of the failures in the justice system, especially for vulnerable individuals, and the impact of racial bias on legal proceedings.